český hráč David Navara.
Divya Deshmukh makes her way to the playing hall after the rest day. This is the 6th round of the Prague Challengers 2026. She pauses for a couple of selfies with her fans. She is quite popular all across the world thanks to her achievements, and her opponent is Thomas Beerdsen, a strong GM from Netherlands, and the game has started with 1d4. Let's have a look at the opening moves and I take you through on how the game developed. Pawn to d4 by Divya, d5 by Thomas, knight f3, knight f6, pawn to g3, g6, and it was the symmetrical variation with castles, and a5 trying to break the symmetry by Thomas, c4 played by Divya, pawn takes pawn, grabbing the pawn. Divya says I'll pick this up with my knight, which makes a lot of sense. Knight to c6, takes the pawn, a4 gaining even more space, and now we go to the game to see how it developed. And Divya, now thinking about this position, brings her bishop to g5. Maybe the bishop is not that well placed on the g5 square, but it's pretty decent. It makes space for the rook to come to the c1 square. Thomas quickly castles here. Now rook c1 looks like the obvious move, improving the position. But Divya goes knight c e5. And now if you take knight e5, then pawn takes, oh by the way he takes, pawn takes e5 could be a nice move. Pawn takes, knight g4, takes, the e7 pawn could be weak, bishop f4 to save the pawn, but instead Divya takes with the knight here on e5. It's a very interesting position here with white having a very strong bishop here, black also having good bishops. The knight on e5, the pawn on a4 looks a bit weird to be honest, but it gives black a lot of space on the queen side. Thomas goes c6, a very logical move, blunting the bishop on g2. And Divya brings her queen up to d3. She would like to play maybe e4 in this position. And now bishop to e6, putting even more pressure on the queen side. And Divya now brings her rook to d1. Black can play moves like knight e8, knight d6, could also bring her queen to b6. Will Thomas do one of those or do something concrete? He goes a3 directly, pushes his pawn, and now white can play b3. But white could also take on a3. And Divya takes it. Now these pawns can become weak for sure. Rook a4, beautiful move, attacking here and here, queen a8. But on the other hand, the b7 pawn could also become a potential target. So Divya is playing for counterplay instead of becoming passive. There you see rook a b1, attacking the b7 pawn, and Thomas will go queen a8, defending b7 and also attacking a3. So queen a8 played, and now queen to d2. The queen comes back, and rook comes to d8, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. Divya has to be careful here, but she very cleverly plays queen d2, queen b2, attacking the b7 pawn, and now h6. An important move here. Do you take on f6 and take on b7? Actually, it's not possible, because if you take here, I take twice, and then just bishop e5 and there's a pin. So that's the reason why she goes back bishop e3. brings a bishop here, and maybe Thomas can go knight to d5. Goes knight to d5, and once again taking here comes with its own set of problems. Takes knight e3 and bishop e5 hanging. So knight drops back to d3 square with the idea of knight c5 attacking a4 and e6. Takes the pawn. Maybe a better idea was to play bishop c8, keeping everything guarded, but rook a3. Now Divya chops off on d5, a good move. Bishop takes d5 and queen takes pawn, queen b7. Queen takes b7, rook takes b7, and now the rook attacks the e7 pawn. Thomas plays pawn to c5, attacking the rook. Take on e7, takes it, and now cd4. The game gets exciting because Divya is now a pawn up, but a2 is going to fall, e2 is a bit weak. Knight b4 played, attacking the bishop here on d5. So if you play de3, I can play rook takes e3 and then pick up the bishop on d5. It's going to fall anyway. Bishop c4 played, a good move, putting pressure on e2 pawn, and bishop c1. Thomas goes back, rook a4, attacking the knight. And now the best move is knight d3, giving up the a2 pawn. But instead Divya goes wrong with a3. And here black has a chance, king f8. Push away the rook to pick up e2 and start pushing the pawn. This is an important moment. If Thomas can find king e8, because rook e4, there's f5. I mean, this rook won't have squares on the e file. But bishop f8 is a mistake. The thing is, Thomas was a bit worried about his getting back the pawn. If he would have played king f8, he would have gotten e2 and the d pawn would have been very strong. Rook comes back to e4, attacking the d4 pawn. And now bishop takes on b4. And I think there are going to be enough trades now for the game to peter out. Rook b4, there is rook takes d4, so you have to be careful. Rook a1 makes a lot of sense, because now you can't take on d4, c1 bishop is hanging, so goes rook e1 with the idea of bishop d2. f5 played by Thomas. Well, h6 pawn also under pressure. First idea is bishop d2. And now rook to c8. So I'm wondering that if Divya goes bishop d2, will black recover the pawn? Because if black doesn't, then white is a pawn up and can press. Rook takes e1, bishop takes e1. And king, rook a8. The rook is coming in here to the a1 square. Divya plays f3 to bring her king up. The problem for Divya is, although she's pawn up, black has a lot of activity. e2 is under attack. If you go king f2, d3 will come. So king f1 makes a lot of sense. And somehow you can't make progress. I just go rook b2, I stop this pawn, I have pressure on e2. So all in all, this looks pretty bad in the sense that you can't play for a win, and the position is around equal. Draw offered by Divya, okay, to Thomas. I think also both players have roughly less than a minute on the clock. So Thomas Beerdsen accepts it and the players draw their game. Divya keeps her 50% score. Was a bit shaky, the game, but also on the other hand, she pulled the brakes at the right time and got the draw in. 3 rounds to go. Divya, playing well, has gained 7 elo points, is on 50% score, and she will definitely be trying to make a strong finish in this tournament with 3 more games left.